All right. Probably the biggest SEL of all time for me is this mining one. So we've been waiting for it to finish, and it's now finished on Twitch. So now we can like pause and discuss and think and stuff on it. And I'm really excited. So let's see what it is here. I think you can kind of hear it already. So. Mining, salvage, tractors, oh my. Star Citizen Live. Here we go. Let me know volume-wise if we need any help, guys, as well. I'll keep an eye on it.
I was spray painting.
A little higher?
This week, and there's just gray spray paint.
That's good, right?
How do you get spray paint off your hands?
Water. WD-40.
No, because that would have worked. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Star Citizen Live. Mining and salvage and tractor beams. Oh, my.
Oh, I'm so hyped for
I'm your
this.
host, creative content lead, Jared
close my door real
Huckabee.
quick.
I almost stumbled on my own title there again. And if you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, that's where we take about an hour out of the end of our week and we invite our devs onto the show to chat. Their work on Star Citizen, sometimes their history, getting into the industry. Sometimes it's just a get to know you thing. Sometimes we do a game dev thing where you see how they make stuff, and sometimes we answer your community questions. On the show this week, we have two folks who probably need no introduction, but we're going to do it anyway.
Two legends.
I was trying to think of a real fun. I've got the King's Coronation on my brain here. So the Kings of EUPU, Dan Truffin and Torsten Lyman. Dan, Torsten, how you doing?
I'm fine.
Hey, doing good.
Yo, I love Torsten.
I said it. We joked like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm talking to Frankfurt folks. How you doing? Fine. Fine. No, it's right.
Torsten, like Jared was expecting him to have the level of enthusiasm as him, and it's just not there.
Dan, Torsten, because every show is somebody's first show. Let's take a few moments to introduce yourselves. Tell everybody who you are and what you do for Star Citizen.
Hi, I'm Dan Truffin. I'm the assistant design director for PU Content.
Just where Dan is,
I oversee a lot of the new work that's being done for Pyro, but not only the content side, I also oversee the UPU team, which Thorsten can talk a bit more.
Okay, Thorsten.
Hello, I'm Torsten. I'm a lead system designer for the EOPU team.
Oh my God, never mind.
And the EOPU team is basically responsible for like most of the industrial gameplay loops that we have in our game.
So as an expansion on that, your teams are responsible for the gameplay features, the functionality of mining, the functionality of salvage, the functionality of tractor beams and stuff, and then that goes on to other teams like the mission feature team or other sandbox teams like Sandbox 1, Sandbox 2, or the Montreal team, and they create missions and specific gameplay content to do in the Precision Universe with the tools and the features that you and your team create and provide.
Yeah, basically, we create these sandbox systems that then
I can't pause. I think my computer is like shitting itself. But at the same time, like, yeah, it's exactly what Torsten said. It's the sandbox systems, because everything this team put in made gameplay for me. So it's not like missions or gameplay. That's sort of what Jared's making it sound like. But I have all the gameplay I need for the moment, right?
Utilized in those defined gameplay scenarios that are then like missions or any other content setup, yes.
So just to beat that. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, the flow kind of goes where the feature teams create a feature and they try to open up a few hooks for the mission guys. And then the mission guys come back and go, hey, could we also get some extra functionality here? And they try to build the mission. The mission feature team builds a mission module can be used and combined with other mission modules to create content. And they build the initial content, and then the mission content guys take that over and build. They go wide and build a large amount of missions using all of this. Well, everyone is built in this chain.
Mining missions
drive the sandbox
are going to be
metaphor right into the ground.
Oof.
Yeah, your team is the one that puts the the shovel and the rake and the pail in the sandbox, and then the other teams come in and take those things and build the castles and stuff.
Yeah, but the shovel, the rake, and I can't pause. Why is it being so weird? The shovel, the rake, and the whatever is the gameplay as well for so many people. I think Jared's like missing that part. The missions aren't the gameplay. Not exclusively, right? They are gameplay, but yeah.
Do kids play in sandboxes anymore? Like, do they have sandboxes at parks?
Also, yeah, Big Matt, I am going to keep pausing. I am going to talk over this. You're literally here watching it. You could have watched it live. I'm just kidding. The YouTube channel doesn't get that the people who watch the YouTube channel do not get the stop pausing Pago meme. It's just a meme, guys. I see the comments on my React channel a lot. The people in my chat saying stop pausing Pago, it's just a joke, okay? It's just a joke.
Anymore, or are we just really old?
They do.
And it's been an inside joke away from you for a while. So sorry.
Let
you in on
we're going to talk over a couple things that the EU PU team has worked on. Some that you've been iterating on for quite some time. Others that are relatively new, like Salvage. I want to start with mining. Now, way back when we did what we thought was going to be our last ISC piece on mining for a while. Like, mining was set. It's done. We're really happy where it was. And then about a year later, we're like,
no, they knew right then and there that it was bad. The moment I saw that video, I actually was like not a fan of Torsten, and I was like, he doesn't understand. Why doesn't he understand that everything he's doing is actively working against this being good? And then I made a video and I was like super upset, and I don't think I had much of an impact on this or any. I think it was just very clear by the way players were playing, the activities and what they were doing and what they were only mining, Quantanium, right? Like all these things gave them the information they needed to know that this didn't work and we needed to make a change. And so far, everything I've seen, the change is good.
Like, nope, we're doing more updates that are coming in the upcoming Alpha 3.19, which is currently in Wave 1 or 2 PTU testing right now. What pulled us back into mining when we thought we were out for a while?
One of the main aspects was actually the community feedback that we received.
Oh, okay.
And that was pointing out that we were lacking some content, especially for bigger groups, and mining in a mole in our multi-crew mining ship wasn't fun anymore, and there wasn't
I don't want to say that it wasn't fun. A lot of people mined in a mole, and they really enjoyed Star Citizen. They're very relaxed mining gameplay, but it you can tell that it never hit the intentions of the mole. Like, I don't think you guys understand the history around the mole for me. It means a lot more. I've always been into mining. The first dev that ever hung out in my channel, who was just a QA guy with the mission team, ended up going on to design ships at Star Citizen. That was his first ship. And the content that these guys made actually took all of the coolness or any potential that it had away. Right? So, like, there's just so much history that goes on here. And my problems with it were the mole wasn't living up to its potential. It wasn't as cool as it could have been. And that was my feedback about it. But I know people like solo mined in a mole and had fun. It's not that it wasn't fun, but we all know it could have been so much better.
Real challenge, even though that
there was no
thought
challenge
back then that mining could be in particular situations, especially for new players, a bit more challenging. And we learned the quick way that we were a bit off with our assumptions there, and basically made us rethink some of the decisions we made with mining, and basically led us back at least to the drawing board, not from the actual gameplay or the main
the main loop of putting the laser power up and down
inside. So
it's
basically
good.
The mining that you will find now in 3.9
always was
it's not comparable to the mining that you knew from 318 and before.
Yeah. A lot of the feedback I'm already seeing from on streams and on YouTube and in Spectrum is that people are getting in there, and besides a bunch of the performance improvements that that improve the overall 319 experience from what's currently on 318 live servers. There are a lot more opportunities with mining, more ways to customize your mineable experience. Some of that has to do with the tractor beam stuff that we'll get into in a little bit. But because we haven't talked about what specifically is in 319 right now, can you give us a rundown of the mining improvements? I know
you cannot run this down.
I'm halfway through the question, and I'm like, I should have really told them to have the confluence.
The rundown. Like for week in review this week, I feel like I need to cut things out because there's so much information in 319.
Page up and running, so he doesn't have to pull all this stuff out of his head. But sum it up for us. What does change in 319 for mining?
Everything.
Okay, the short version is everything.
Yeah, literally everything.
But so I will probably forget some things because the list is actually quite bigger than I was imagining, because I wrote even the summary for our life experience team, what actually changed, and that list got bigger than I expected, to be honest. But let's start with the resources. I think that is the biggest change, because it not only affects the mining itself, but it also has an impact on trading.
Yes.
Because right now resources have distinct locations in Stanton. That means we defined now 7 standard materials that have 7 different locations, or that can be in the combination of those in those locations.
Okay.
And those standard materials or those standard resources you only find in those particular locations. For example, a standard is copper and iron.
And
so those you will only...
Copper and iron are on Daymar. I think he's about to say where they are, so I shouldn't pause.
Only find in dedicated locations throughout Stanton.
Okay, you don't only find them on Daymar. I did find them on Daymar. So the other cool thing is that they could take, if that's found on Daymar. Okay, you know what? I am going to stop pausing. You're actually right now. Let him fucking speak, Mike. I don't need to explain it.
That,
he's explaining it.
Rarity to some
I'm just
resources,
excited. I'm sorry.
And those are, we have... common one, we have uncommon one, and we have one rare one, which is Quantanium.
And it's
so
mega
those are
rare.
Now more sparse in its general appearance, and so that is like
let him cook. Let him cook.
The thing that you will notice at first sight. Another thing that is more hidden behind is that each resource now has its distinct density. So that means that even though the rocks look very similar in size in comparison to before, they will have now drastically different masses. So heavier elements will have a huge impact on the mass of the rock. And that actually helped us a bit, because that made certain materials now more viable for bigger ships or bigger lasers, while others are now better suited for smaller ships or single player ships. And
that's the biggest thing is a tungsten is the lowest value on the map that I can think of, but tungsten rocks are 100k mass. Like, these things are filling C2s with like 1 or 2 rocks of tungsten. So you're able to mine these things and create full large cargo ships with not that many rocks, but I mean the number of ships you need to break a 100,000 mass rock is significantly insane. We just went through breaking 50-60k rocks with 2 moles. So 100k is crazy. But yeah, that's the big thing, is even the low value materials are not that low value. So mining nearly everything has value to the player, which is so cool.
Smaller lasers. So that was already a big win for us. in addition to that, we also introduced a new mineable that is called Genolite. That
I still haven't seen it yet.
Something that we introduced for FPS mining solely, and it's located in the new caves. So basically we wanted
new
to
caves,
make
so the same
mining
caves,
outside
it sounds
of prison
like.
more attractive, and now we have this super rare mineable there that will earn you a fortune if you find it. And
if you could sell it. Apparently there weren't many locations to sell it at, and nobody knew where to sell it.
Yeah, on the resource side, not only did we update the distribution of the standard materials and the materials in general, we also adjusted all the probabilities of each of the sub-elements, and now there are no more... Well, for us, we have a better overview of what resources are where, but for players, it is like, I think, more of a... Yeah, I think it's more fun to actually look for certain materials than it was.
I agree. And the thing is like I'm already starting to see the database mined stuff, and it's honestly more fun searching than it is knowing. So people are going to have the option to have all the data, but people are also going to have the option to find it themselves.
Was before. Also,
they'll have to discover
Genolite and Grim.
They have to discover a completely new. It's a completely new distribution, and it might be annoying or exciting depending on everyone's perspective on life.
It's both at the same time.
One thing I wanted to add is
thing
that we definitely add, and I hope this helps, is a lot of improvements on the mining UI and UX.
Yes.
So there's.
But before he goes into that, that is why Dan is so cool. He like what he just said there is it depends on your perspective on life, and that's it. It doesn't matter what somebody else thinks. Like it's your perspective. You see the world the way you do. I see the world the way I do. And you know what? We could coexist and be just fine. Where you're over here, I'm over there, and that's it. And we could both see two things in two different ways.
There's a lot of small little things that just added together, they just make it more user-friendly. They make it easier for a beginner to understand it.
Hold on, Genolite is 27.64 million per SCU?
Exactly what's happening. Why is it happening?
The gems are... Having an SCU of gems is a lot. Just... It's a hand mineable. It only drops like 10. 1,000 of those gems, I believe, is a full SCU. So keep that in mind.
On the resources, there is even things or rule sets that are still uncovered. So I leave it up to the community to uncover those rule sets.
Okay.
There might be some things that would help you to look for certain materials more targeted. But that all for the resources. Dan already talked about the UI changes. So actually a shout out to a person that is like ruling all our UI work in our team. That is Bastien. So Bastien did an amazing job with all the UI work that we now have done for the update.
Yes, but they missed something. When you have Quantanium in your ship, it might be a bug. But the UI, there is no timer there anymore. I thought that timer was a good thing. Maybe it's not. Maybe one of the rule sets is the more Quantanium you have, the faster it explodes or something. I don't know. Maybe it was intentional to leave it out, but that is gone, and I don't necessarily think that's a good thing.
Yeah, so for the UI, as Dan stated, it's now more user-friendly. So we have...
I didn't have the timer on mine.
Indicators for what
Maybe I was bugged.
Have equipped. We now have a dedicated helper that tells you if you should actually try out the rock that you are facing, or you should call in a friend, because it says impossible, and impossible means impossible for your current setup. So you definitely will need some help there.
To be clear, if you're in a mole, it may say impossible for you because you're a single laser. It doesn't know that there's other people in the laser. So as they put their lasers on, you'll see it go from impossible to like medium, let's say. So with multi-crew, that's a little bit of a weird one. But in a prospector, it is super clear.
And
It shows up under the Quantanium in red
one more
text.
thing that I forgot.
Okay.
It's
Maybe I missed
actually
it.
a huge list. Like one more thing I forgot is we now have even different scaling for the resources. So beforehand we had very limited scaling for the size of the rocks you find on those planets. So now you even, if you're lucky, you even find like those little nuggets that you don't even have to break. You can
That's
just
so cool. That's a huge.
Like
there's just
so
purples laying
even if you were
around.
unlucky and didn't have the matching mining heads equipped, you at least got away with something, and that directly leads to the next big update, which is the mining heads.
I will say this: the matching mining heads, I am not recognizing that very easily in the game currently. It might be because I'm in multi-crew more than solo, but I have not found the matching experience to be very clear.
So what we did there is, we basically started from scratch. So we mapped out all the resources and defined their own individual parameter, meaning like each resource has their own way of affecting the resistance, then their own way of affecting the optimal window or the instability, and all those parameters that you know from the mining heads. And we mapped that against the mining heads. And then what we did was made some values exclusive for some of the sub items, and basically did a full cleanup of all the items that we had, and then mapped certain type of combinations and the mining heads towards those properties of the resources. So what we did is have one mining head where we on our Excel sheets calculated that these will work better with certain resources, while others won't have such a benefit there. Doesn't mean that they won't work, but so yeah, it will be like more challenging for players with certain laser combinations to crack open certain type of rocks.
And I'm going to interject here. We made it about 13 minutes into the show before the common question comes in. Tom, go and meet me at camera 2. Hi, Shittius. That's really your name in Twitch. Shittius was the first person to ask if this show was live. No. It's not. It's pre-taped, and I just knew you were going to ask. I can also see through the screen into your room, and it's time to throw away all those caffeine-free Diet Coke cans. Okay.
We have to sit next time with a newspaper here and prove that.
I don't know. There's always somebody every show.
I wonder why.
With mining, before we move on to stuff, let's talk. So that's what we're doing for 319. A little bit about what we're doing for 319. Obviously not a comprehensive list because I pulled the question out without preparing you, and you didn't have the comprehensive list. That's on me. Can you give us a little bit about where we want to go with mining going forward after 319? Is this now it for a while, or is there something else in the back of our head we already know we want to do as our next steps?
Give the idiots attention.
So there are definitely some next steps that are already planned out. Some that I don't want to talk about yet, but others that we can definitely talk about, which is for crafting and refining. Like this, the distribution of the resources helps us drastically to.
Mike is cringing, but literally doing the same thing with stop pausing. Fair. You're right. You know what? Sometimes you need to just be told, and I appreciate it. I deserve that.
Already plan out all the next steps that will, as Dan so nicely always mentions.
He said crafting, guys.
Like we really want to close out the loop, right? So you start at mining, you pick up the resources, may it be mining, may it be salvage, then you bring it to your refinery, you refine it to the processed goods, and once you have it in the processed goods, you bring it to your crafting facility, crafting ship, crafting whatever, and
crafting
then you
ship.
Create the requested items out of them, and then you can even like circle back to like recycling the goods that.
I have not purchased a ship in a while. I will melt. I will that's going to be a problem.
Created and bring them back into the loop.
Chris,
So,
Daddy Chris is going to get
this is
rich.
the ultimate goal. And with the current mining update, we are one step closer to achieving that. While I think we already mentioned it, that we are already working on the next steps in our team. So it's an active development. But
spoiler, he means the Endeavor. I hope not.
So, but talking about mining in particular, no, that's not the end of it. And the reason is because there are still some ships missing that were announced.
Right. Yeah, there's the Orion missing.
Have their own treatment of how you play mining with those.
Right. Things like the Orion.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's also a lot of the things that are going to change, exactly as we said. Eventually it all leads to crafting and making your own items out of nothing. You start out of nothing with a ship and you get this. But there's a few very interesting things along the way. One of the closest things right now are going to be those mining sacks. We need to be able to eject, collect, put into a refinery, process all that, or turn into refined materials, take that to a manufacturing ship, or sell it, or whatever you want to do. So the main thing is, like, we're seeing this as a mining operation. We're seeing this as a mining, refining, hauling, production, crafting, manufacturing operation that you can run. You can run it with 2-3 people, or you can run it on a full scale where you have whatever 20 prospectors, 5 refinery ships, 3 haulers, escort for all of them. It's all that thing. Once that ecosystem starts going, you're going to see some amazing operations in Star Citizen.
All these loops, connect to form a chain. They all link into one, into another,
How can you, like, this is the thing. I'll start seeing the comments. Mike, sweetie Mike, you're getting soft on them, all that stuff. All right? Like, how do you get mad? How do you get mad at something that makes sense? You cannot get mad at them when they finally start making sense. You get mad at them because they never made sense in the first place. They're starting to make sense. The sense is actually in the game. It's not just talking about it anymore. They started making sense in the game for the first time in this patch. Like, it's just easy to just be excited. So shut up.
Another to basically,
you're just
work
hating
to
to hate.
Do mining is also work that will affect crafting, will affect refining and stuff. It's all building out this industrial.
I'm hating because I was trying to get us here.
It's basically
exactly, and pretty much all of these industrial professions are going to feed into some form of refining / crafting. That's kind of the pinnacle of everything. Whether you do it from mining, whether you do it from salvaging, or any other system that's going to be coming down the line, whatever, picking lovely flowers because they have some oil that you can extract from them and use that to lubricate your machine guns or whatever. That's a different. So it all feeds into this thing where you can produce your own items and create hopefully a very flourishing economy where people trade whatever they produce today with whatever someone else produced.
So let's flip over to another one of those game loops that's linked, Salvage. Obviously, Salvage, you made its debut in 3.18 now.
Yep.
Salvage made its debut, but has it even made its debut yet, really? Until like a few days ago when they turned Xenothreat off. Right? Like, that's why he's like in 3.18 maybe. Like, I feel like the entire 3.18 cycle has just been this nightmare that we could not get out of and wake up from. And finally, it's here. And we can maybe experience it in a way that it was intended to be.
Talking about it for so long, it's hard to... How's that going? How's the
it'll
response
actually
to that
debut
been?
when you could buy a vulture in game.
Are you happy with it? Are you content with it? Or do you see nothing but the problems and where you want to go next? I invite you to be very candid in this. Tell me how you're seeing Salvage right now after its release. Come on, Dan.
Oh, should I do it? I thought I'd leave this one to Torsten.
Okay.
This is his baby. He started this. He brought it to completion. I don't want to talk about it. From mining, I have a lot of things to say because I started it, and then Torsten is bringing it to completion. But for this one, I'd rather let Torsten take it.
Dan, Giga Chad, Dan.
So the question was where we are at with it and how happy we are, and I'm really happy with.
Yeah, you should be. I think it's good,
and especially with the short time that we actually got to work on that. Like,
but Torsten's also a Giga Chad.
Waiting for it for quite some time, but actually the time frame it was thrown at us was quite short. So I'm really happy with what we pulled out or what we achieved in that time frame. And I think I mentioned it already at some point that what I like the most about the Salvage that was introduced with 3.18, so the hull scraping, is that it is such a nice contrast to all the other gameplay loops that we have. Right, we have a very action-based combat, or we have an action-based combat. We have mining that is very now even more than before, but it is like challenging in terms of itemization, planning, and preparation, and stuff like that. Why?
I think I streamed. I've been streaming for how long today? 6 hours 45 minutes. 4.5 of those hours easily was spent planning for the mining. Barely mined.
Hull scraping right now is you jump into your vulture or into your reclaimer, you drive past some debris pieces, and you can just put on some music and relax and just scrape off their hull. And I think that is this, like, I think good games are made out of those, like, a variety of systems that deliver on certain demands that you as the player have. And sometimes you might have had a rough day, so what you need is just sit back, relax, and I think hull scraping is the perfect loop for that. So
he gets it.
Yeah, I'm really happy with where we're at, and yeah, what I'm also proud of is that we managed to deliver our first glimpse of crafting. So having that in there with a filler station is also a very nice thing to have. So it's.
I want you to build on it, though.
For all of you players. But,
I want to see them build on that every patch.
You touch on something.
Nothing in 3.19 for it.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, I just wanted to fill in on this. It's kind of funny because when we started working on this, there was a bit of a clash of ideas, which always happens with anything you're designing. Torsten was always trying to deliver this more chilled experience, just you and your ship in the middle of nowhere, just hull scraping whatever you found. And I was like, no, it needs to be challenging. It needs to explode if you touch a wire or something like this. And we're like, no, just let's do it this way. And indeed, you need to have the variety. If everything explodes the second you do something wrong, you always have that tension. So it's nice to have the ups and downs. There will be chances for explosions and stuff like this with other gameplay, or maybe with other parts of Salvage.
It's so they could do it in such a. Maybe not. I don't know. I was thinking like certain Salvage missions where it's risky, right? But
yeah, it's nice to have a mix of everything. And I do have to add to what Torsten just said, is like the team pulled off an amazing feature. There were a lot of dependencies on other team, and it came at a time when a lot of heavy tech was coming, and it kind of influenced the delivery, and they did an amazing job.
Yeah, actually on that, before it's forgotten, because without the weapon feature team that did the pre-phase work and the VFX team that pulled out like the amazing damage map work that was
WFT, let's go.
We would be sitting here and talking about this. So like also like huge kudos to the weapon feature team and to the VFX team that really helped us achieve what we have now.
Yeah, if for backers who are used to mining and exploding and dying, you can send your letters to Dan Treppen, care of Cloud Imperium Games.
Yeah.
I don't know the new address. I used to know the old address, and I realized that you have the new address there. I don't know it. Torsten, I want to touch on something that you touched on. There's a misconception that applies to everything that you touched on, that from the moment we say, oh, this is something we want to do, that it must be in active development, that all things are in active development.
This is a good question.
At the same time.
We need this.
Because we've been talking about salvaging for years and years and years. That's not the same as you have had the resources available to you.
Okay, fuck off with that, though, because salvaging has been on the roadmap like one patch out for years and years and years, and then got pushed. Like, to the point where players would definitely assume that shit was in active development at some point. So come on, with the salvage at least. But I do agree, we need to hear this. Jared is right. Just because they're talking about it doesn't mean it's an active development.
The schedule available to you and your people to actually work on it, which, like you said, it was a relatively short window for this first iteration there. And I want to mention that phenomenon can be applied to every single aspect of Star Citizen. It's when you saw your first jump points at CitizenCon 2019. Jump points have not been in continuous development for the last 4 years. The first time you saw the interior of the Hull C, which is recently...
Again, fuck off with that, because you know full well that we've been told that we were going to get pyro and server meshing for the last 4 years in a row at the end of this year, or maybe the beginning of next year. So come on.
Been added to the 320.
That's so unfair. That's so unfair to us.
That has not been in continuous development for the last several years and stuff. So I want to encourage people to utilize the resources, the public roadmap, which is overseen by community manager Jake Acapella. He does a great job there. Not just the release view, but the development view is probably your best way to see whether something is in active development or not.
Monthly report is, I think, personally.
Sometimes it still falls out because sometimes things change and we don't get the website updated quite as frequently. No fault through Jake Acapella, just it's a big, hairy machine with 1,000 people across 5 studios. And then also the monthly reports. The monthly reports that go up on the cyberspaceindustries.com website is another fantastic way to keep informed of the things that are in active development. So if there's a lot of we see a lot of comments, and I'm going to get a little personal here, so bear with me, Dan and Torsten. When folks on the YouTube or the Reddit or Spectrum, comment on Inside Star Citizen, for instance, like why are they not talking about this or whatnot? The answer is almost always it's not in active development right now, or if it is in active development, it's not at a point where it's changed enough from the last time you've seen it in order to show it to you again, or it's not far enough along, period, and we want to wait until we can present a more visually appealing and a sustainable story to you than earlier days and stuff. So there are always many factors that go into it. Also, sometimes it's just, person's on vacation or person's over here and they're not available or whatnot. So there's always many factors. But I encourage you to utilize...
I don't want to hear that.
The
visually appearing, tell me a story.
Aspect of
I don't need to story, man. We just want to play the game.
The public roadmap.
Show me the damn game. And that's where it's like, if it's not an active development, you can't show me the game. So that's fine. But
and those monthly reports, they're going to be your best tool to know what is currently in active development. And then ISC kind of comes at the end of all that, because you definitely want to show stuff. We have a show where we just talk. That's this one. But ISC, we want to make sure those things are far enough along to show whenever possible. So Salvage, where do we want to go with this? We know munching is in our future. Talk to me about where we want to take munching. What's next for hull scraping? What can you tell us, Thorsten?
So hull scraping for now is, I want to say on a rest, but that's not entirely true, because it will get touched while we are working right now on the munching aspect. So some improvements will come with our munching release that will also affect the hull scraping part of it. But so the next step for Salvage was what was released right now in 3.19, which is the item
missions
stripping
and the item stripping.
Already a huge step forward for the Salvage gameplay loop, and I think it was even one of the most requested, most waited for, however you want to phrase it, but like I personally am
salvage.
really happy about it because it ties in really nicely with all the features that we internally work on. So the synergy is really nice.
Tech term is munching
like
is crushing up a ship
in the end, because you can switch
into
out
little
your
pieces.
fuel pods. There are still things that we need to do there, right? So it was already called out in several points on Spectrum.
Guys, I can hear this, but I need to get a drink.
In our community videos or in other channels, that there are still a lot of things that we need to do to make it work perfectly. We are aware, and we are working on that. But yeah, then the next big step, and I think that will be the most fun, and I'm personally looking forward the most to that, is actually the munching. So yeah, like every reclaimer owner will be happy to actually be able to use their claw at some point on any debris ship. And yeah, but not only is it important for those ship owners, but it's also important now with PES. So I think that is even more important than any gameplay right now. We need cleanup, and there's no better way to clean up than to
Can't believe we're the ones who are going to clean up the servers.
Have it.
That's so insane.
In the sense of, yeah, you destroy the ships. It's fun to destroy those ships or those debris pieces. And
I think it'll be really satisfying, though.
Resources, and then you are either able to sell those for like just profit, or you use the resources you gather for crafting then coming in the very far future.
So
this is sorry, one thing. This is an important.
I'm glad you said crafting in the very far future as well. So, like, set that expectation right now. Crafting is nowhere near.
It's not a shift in mentality. It's a good mentality that we've always had, but I think it shows, especially with PES. Yes, we filled up the universe with a lot of wrecks and a lot of junk, but what we're doing right now, we're starting to introduce the gameplay that's going to clean it up, and munching is just one of things. We know there's a big mess happening on the space stations, on the landing zones, so we will be introducing systems that also will tackle that, but we don't want to just clean it up faster, just remove it and destroy basically PES. What we're going to do is...
Thank you, it's us, Drinks and Dice, appreciate it.
You don't want to hide
if the location needs cleaning, then the players will have a chance to do that and gain some rewards from that.
Yeah. So you'd say you're both are really looking forward to munching.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you both like stripping. There's nothing wrong with stripping, but you're really looking forward to munching.
So I cannot talk about that in detail, but I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Jared, you're fucked up, man.
If you had to pick munching or stripping.
Munching.
For the upcoming munching release.
Pardon?
Meme camera 2. I'm sorry. All right. You're watching the last show of Disco Orlando, only at twitch.tv/StarCitizen. Let's move on to tractor beams. Tractor beams are getting a lot of fun stuff in 3.19.
Fucking Jared, man.
Give us the quick rundown for folks who may not have seen last season's ISC on it, Torsten.
You can now attach and detach any ship items and some of the internal components with your...
It's funny how such a basic thing like this is so good.
And has that been, internally, has that been a smooth addition to the game?
It sounds like no.
How's that been going?
Not at all. Especially with, like, so there are several issues that we were facing, right? So I think the biggest one is actually how do we get items comfortably out of the inventory and then place them on your ships, right? So your station inventory, how do you get the items out of there and then have them accessible?
That's still a problem we have.
And there we had a lot of painful sessions, like when I was talking about, I think in our last ISC, that we had the Cutlass Black prepared with all the mining heads in there. We can do that. We can cheat. We can spawn items.
Yeah,
we don't have to do the...
Okay, so that's good to hear. Okay, you cheated, but it It makes it sound like it's more fun than it is. And I'm telling you, bro, this was horrible. Like, today had the opportunity to be amazing, and many moments of it was tedious and horrible and brutal. There are so many moments that can be had that could be so much more fun if they fix that problem. Now, it sounds like it is a much more difficult fix than we perceive it to be.
The annoying part of actually equipping one of your ships and then like pulling the items off, and then,
yeah, we almost got pirated too. It's almost bad.
So this is something that we uncovered, but I think that the most drastic one is which I'm, me as a player, I'm really like not so happy about this decision, but me as sitting here with my CIG hat on, I think that's the only decision we could come up with deactivating tractor beams again in the green zones, because I think in one of our earliest Fleet Week test sessions, we had players like basically ripping out all the items, and the entire Fleet Week hall was just like impassable because like everything was lying around, and that's not fun for players, right? Because that also adds to like, even though you couldn't even carry out the big weapons through the elevator out, right? So you didn't even have a benefit of it. It was just like bringing havoc to the world and making everyone else's lives miserable. So we had to jump in and come up with this temporary solution and deactivate the tractor beam in the green zones. But yesterday we activated at least again in the hangars. So there was
that's cool.
Shout out to Yaro, who just did jump in and did a quick fix for that. So
no, it was I think
that's
people were going into the showroom and pulling the components out of the.
It is not the solution to the problem. And I do ask a question, and apparently it got answered. So hopefully the answer is to my liking, and because if it's not, it's going to be a rough ride for miners.
Display ships. Is that what I saw?
And everybody.
Yeah. Not even that. Like, it's like even from the display stands, shops weren't secure anymore. Like, you could tear apart every shop and every item in every shop, and also because in Fleet Week we always allow you to enter those ships and like figure out or like explore the ships that you don't own, and that also means you can sit in their pilot seat, and then you can, because a crucial aspect of the tractor beam functionality is that you first have to unlock the items so that we don't have players griefing one another and just basically tearing your ship apart even though you don't want it. So in the Fleet Week, you could sit in the pilot seat, unlock the items, and then like basically strip every item away, and then have another person that come in and then like, why does the ship look so empty? So,
It's not as bad as our first IAE, where somebody actually started a ship and flew it through the convention center.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's like, oh, you can actually fully power these on and fly them. Okay, that's a problem.
This is what we always do. We add new things into a very complex environment and set of systems, and there will be some points of failure. And then we look at those, we try to fix them. With the tractor beams kind of being usable in green zones, there will have to be some updates to the law of the place.
Yep.
That will need to support some things. As Torsten said, the shops will need some updating. This is what always happens. You try something and then you realize there's a lot of things that get started in motion.
If Dan was the head of like communicating everything about Star Citizen, I don't think I would be upset at anything. Like,
Put in motion, it's an avalanche, and then you have to kind of get all the pieces fixed.
And that's because we build everything systemically, though. We build everything to
and then I got to hear the fucking code
words.
words.
Unscripting here.
Exactly. All as functionally and diegetically within the universe as possible, so that those mysterious interactions are what generate, emergent gameplay, but they also generate a lot of the, okay, we're going to need something to address that. Turning them off in green zones is a temporary thing, but
it's always emergent gameplay for the players and headaches for us. But yeah, we'll get them done, and we'll move on to the next one.
So we're going to take a real short break here. When we get back, we'll get to some backer questions from Spectrum. So stay tuned. We'll be back in a minute. I'm going to have to check my email.
Is there anything worth seeing it during the break? No.
Talking about... That's what they're working on.
I mean, the image is interesting.
I mean,
yeah, there's a building around a lake.
Stripping and munching. They didn't make anything up. That's what they're working on. Okay. Love you too, Chris. Bye. All right, so we're back. And we're still here with Dan Truffin and Torsten Lyman talking about
he's still here.
Mining and salvage and tractors. Oh my! At this point, we put up a thread earlier in the week. When I say earlier, I think it was like actually yesterday up in Spectrum to collect questions. So we're going to pull some. We're going to pull some of the questions from the thread, starting with no stranger to Star Citizen Live, SaltEMike, who wrote, what are the plans on making the item port flow much simpler than the current travel to Armistice and remove items and repeat for mining?
Sorry, I can't write.
What are the plans on making the item port flow much simpler than the current travel to Armistice and remove items and repeat for mining? This is a key part of the new experience, and it is severely hindered by the current item and inventory system.
So we cannot fix it for all the items right now. But so we already have at least, so today we got it internally working that you can move at least the sub items for the mining heads more comfortably out of your station inventory onto the ground, pick them up, carry them,
yes,
and bring them over to your ship. But there are some issues that we still have to solve.
Way to go! That's huge.
Yeah, once we
The lasers are easy to hold in a ship. The amount of attachments that you have to swap in and out are insane to get what you wanted to do. So having them stored in a box and moving them from a box to the laser when you want is so much better. Oh my God.
To get that sorted, we will probably push it out. But for the other items, especially for the bigger ones, it's more complicated.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, there is no way right now, even with the tractor beam deactivated in the green zones, to prevent players from messing up your spaces or even the stations, right? So if you have like a giant
they would block the elevators
in GrimHex, you could basically block away all the ASOP terminals, and then no one would be able to access them because
I could do that now, though. That's the thing. I could do that now with the mining laser heads. So. And I could do that now, even in the hangar with everything. I could just block every elevator. But, yeah. That's why Dan's talking about the laws.
Tractor beams won't work. You cannot push them around. And, so this is...
I think there's going to be littering laws.
That we can do with all the issues that we pointed out with the tractor beam being activated in the green zones.
Fair.
So, sadly, we cannot do that. But also, we want to do it right, which means that we are dependent on the freight elevators, because the freight elevator is basically the proper connection between your virtual inventories and your real space, right? Because like pulling something out of thin air is weird.
Yeah.
Put it this way. So.
Yeah, but like, what if it's in a box? I think with the big stuff that makes sense, but the little things, like that's what I want you guys to know that Torsten came to chat the first day that mining was available, I think yesterday, and I just explained to him about the gadgets, specifically the modules that you put on the mining laser. I totally respect and understand the large things, but I could not move forward without explaining how illogical it was to not have these small items be able to just like it's the size of a water bottle, guys. Like I could pick up this thing and I can carry it. I've seen it happen in a patch before. Like they had animations to carry these things, and then all of a sudden I couldn't anymore, and it just made no sense to me. And it basically takes where, okay, there are, I believe, 5 different types of lasers, and if you wanted to be able to swap every single one out on a mole, you would need 3 of each. That's 15 lasers, and you can easily do that within the hangar, but the modules, now it add 3 each to those. 15, 45, maybe, and then add all the different types. Now we're talking like 100 different modules that you might have in a box in your ship. It becomes impossible to manage that inventory. And it took me hours to mine 5 or 6 rocks today because we were swapping things out and trying to learn.
So you definitely want to have the freight elevators there.
Next question is from Luxor.
I enjoyed that. That's good. Good to hear.
Caterpillar owner. How will hull-mounted tractor beams, like on the Caterpillar, be able to move cargo inside the ship, considering the tractor beam is located outside of the ship and away from the cargo hold?
I always wondered this as well.
Yeah, we are aware of those. So we are working on also the vehicle side of the tractor beams, and those need to be updated. Simple as that.
When you say updated, you mean the tractor beam locations moved?
So we talked to the vehicle team about that, and they had to do, especially for the older ships, they need to look into the tractor beam setup more thoroughly than just for the newer ships. So yes, there might be some updates on the actual item position for those to work actually properly with the system.
Right, because the tractor beams at present are very line of sight, so you wouldn't want, it'd be weird if the beam like curved and turned and...
No.
That would be weird, yeah.
Yes.
It's the standard thing we do with all our ships. We release them, and then the systems come online, and we have to rethink a few things. If people remember, the Prospector used to have this laser that was pointing downwards.
Right.
We just had to adjust based on the system, and eventually it all works out.
Things are built with the best information we have at the time. And
exactly.
So, let's see.
Yeah, Cutlet mentioned that today. It's so funny.
Knievel, there we go. Will we be able to buy empty mining bags and also drop them from inventory to easily attach and trade?
We swapped between 2 moles, 2 different inventories, and our inventories changed. It was instantly. It was so cool. So, like, this is an exciting feature that we would really want.
Question about dropping items also applies to mining lasers, mining components, and other similar objects. There were a lot of questions in the thread about mining bags. So.
Talk to us about the bags.
Dropping, no, but using the freight elevator to pull them out and then using them or storing
freight
them
elevator when?
Cargo, yes.
Freight elevator when?
As described, we don't want this magic appearance of items. So we really want to wait for the proper system, which is the freight elevator, to pull out those entities into the real world.
Gotcha. So when you say drop them from inventory, you don't want to pull them out of imaginary
thin air, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They will definitely drop from the ship. So once you fill them in your Prospector, you'll be able to drop them, and a refinery with a tractor beam will just pick them up, take them, empty them, refine them. Drop the empty one, you pick it up and put it in your Prospector, so on.
I mean, you could do that now, but you need to have a cargo ship filled with empty bags to replace them with.
But that should already work, right? So you can already detach the mining sacks from the Prospector and the mole. You can already put them on the cargo grid. Sadly, so this is also something that we are actively working on, is making them detectable by the commodity stores so that you can sell it, but also for the refinery so that you place them on someone else's ship and then fly to a refinery, and that person then is able to start the refining process for the Prospector owner. So it is also important to us that it's not only, basically it's all time.
Did you hear that though? That was a very interesting way of phrasing it. That they would be able to start that process for the Prospector owner. That is an interesting way of saying it, and I kind of like that. But I also think maybe somehow you would have to do it yourself.
Tying in with the group gameplay, that members of your group can actually do the same actions as you would, as the owner, to allow that.
And then there's some ownership stuff with the mining bags. Like, you know, if I'm out on my prospector
all
and
items.
I fill up and I detach the mining bag and give it to somebody else. There was a time where the other person was getting a crime stat because it was considered stolen goods.
That time is
now,
Jared.
By the other player?
That
Can
time
that player
is
now
now.
go sell the contents of that mining bag because it's theirs now? How is that working? How should that work?
Thank you for
asking
that.
So it should work that every person that you allow to handle the content should be able to handle that content. And yeah,
but we can't allow.
This is something that we are working on, because what we also don't want is that if you're doing group trade routes and you have to split like the content of your ship or whatever, that it doesn't have one dedicated owner, but it can have multiple owners that are valid there.
That would be amazing.
So a way to designate, you know, I'm giving this saddlebag full of, you know, Quantanium to this person and it is now theirs and they have full rights to it, versus somebody has taken it and now they would be a criminal.
Correct.
I think the first step in this will be to allow party members basically to share ownership and not to get criminally charged for just, it's not theft even if you're part of the same group, basically.
Right.
I think for now, until orgs are properly in, the thing that Torsten said is the biggest key, is that you're giving it to someone else, but it starts your refinery process. They have access to your refinery process. So they don't need to have access to your bag necessarily, but maybe they have the choice to run your process or their process. Because orgs, a lot of people use like an org-specific account and watch that money go up. I know that that's what we specifically do, and buy ships on that one and spawn org ships for people to use that they don't have, stuff like that. And if you're doing a group thing, it's always weird when, okay, well, this guy got this refinery jobs, this guy's got this refinery jobs, and then who sells them when? It's kind of a messy experience.
And then, you know, for the criminals, you know, who get the crime stat for intercepting a saddlebag, you know, obviously they might have trouble selling it at a more reputable vendor, but as new locations,
Grimhex is going to have a refinery soon, boys.
Legally friendly. There might be other opportunities for them to sell their misbegotten goods.
I don't think you meant it that way either, but I think that that's a good idea.
Of course, that is always the plan.
Okay. That we literally just answered Optimus 13's question. We'll be able to give, sell full mining pods to another player. Okay, we just did that. Congratulations, us. PC 101 says, will we be able to use tractor beam in the armistice zone again? We talked about that, so we can skip that. Ehawk says, will hull stripping need to happen first when salvaging, or can you just go straight into hull munching? Will the hull basically be a blocker to performing munching gameplay, or will you just get less RMC if you don't strip the hull first?
Yeah, on this one you will completely lose out on the RMC, because like you will at least lose some bits, right? If you start the munching process and that will break apart your ship, there will be like some hull material will get lost. So this is definitely some material loss that you will have there.
Dude, how small is this community? Every question that has been asked
the munching to
has been in this
RMC,
chat at one time or another.
Different resource.
Yeah, well, so in our first iteration, the munching will not provide RMC, but for later, once we have actually, because the explanation would take a bit longer, because what we actually need to have the proper materials is the physicalized materials that like each component the ship made of is aware of which material it is made of, right? So if you break apart a ship, that the piece exactly knows what it is made of, and then you munch it, and then you actually get the exact components what it was made of. This is something that is more complicated to do than what we are currently working on. currently we will be working on something that is more like it converts it to a dedicated or defined mix of materials.
For each ship, maybe.
We don't know yet what the actual part is made of, but
I love this. This
will
is super
then
cool.
come once the physicalized materials will come in.
Yeah.
I feel like they should have done that with scraping, though. But I like that maybe scraping is this separate thing and RMC is this separate thing as well. So either way is like good, but I was hoping that's what scraping would have done. But at the same time, I'm very happy with the scraping experience that we have now.
So with that, we don't plan to have RMC being part of that because we want to leave it like exclusive to the hull scraping. But for the future, like even RMC as the material might look a bit different or get a bit more variety into it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Folks who have read the most recent monthly report, you'll know that they're prototyping munching now. So during the prototyping phase, anything can change. Whatever the truth today is can be a different truth tomorrow and stuff like that. It's one of the reasons we don't do segments and stories, too much in the prototyping phase, because it's just we like to wait until as many of the details are locked down as possible. True, the only constant game development is change, but we do try to make a threshold. At least get to a certain level of certainty before we start telling those stories.
Nowadays, you didn't used to.
Ultimately, what I heard is that it's really important to both strip and munch whenever possible.
Yes, but it's not a requisite, right? You can munch, but you lose some material.
Jesus Christ, bro.
It might be with a reclaimer. If you have enough things to munch, you're just going to skip on the stripping because you just have so much stuff to munch that it's maybe more lucrative. But if you have only one wreck, then it's worth to squeeze every ounce of resources out of that.
They don't get it.
I love my Frankfurt friends.
They don't get it. You got to let them in on the joke at this point.
I hope they still like me after the show.
You got to let him in on the joke at this point. Because even Dan's like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, being serious. Why are you being not serious? And he can't figure out why.
Sorial says, will the tractor beams be a single focused beam at ship level, or will it be a variable cone with lowering power the wider we go? This person clearly wants to cast a net over an area to see if they can pull in more things at once.
So for now it is a single target beam, and the reasons are more complex as well, because we are facing some like if we would allow the ownership of
they're saving that beam for fishing,
items,
yes.
that will get really complicated with physics and synchronizing those physics. So we decided for now that we will just go for one target per beam. But on the other side, we were talking about okay, how can we utilize the technology that we have with the tractor beam to affect multiple objects? So they were I think Dan brought it up at some point, these distortion fields or something like that, right?
Do you have something? Okay.
Yeah, Dan was
Sorry,
something.
not much to say about that right now. It's still too early. Again, this is stuff where it's at this point it's in, I would call it ideation. It hasn't even been prototyped yet.
Right.
So confirming anything at this point would be a bit premature. So let's see where we get to. We'll update as soon as we have more.
Cool. That's how you answer those questions.
Overseer,
That's how you talk about features
05
that you're not working on. It's so simple. Dan is literally the best.
513
Holy shit.
0513 says, we have seen the tractor beam able to pull off components. Is there going to be a way to place them into station inventory so we can actually use them? On the same line, if we cannot pull components out of inventory, how are we going to change the mining equipment?
I think we answered that already.
The elevators.
Yes, exactly. So the cargo elevator, the hangar cargo elevator is gonna offer this functionality. You'll be able to pull any item that you have in that station into that hangar through the cargo elevator, then put it wherever you want on your ship, equip it. And it also works the other way around, where you pull from your ship, put it on the cargo elevator, goes into the station. And one other thing you'll be able to pull with that is pull vehicles. So you'll be able to say, well, I want this on my ship, and you pull it with a cargo elevator, comes on that cargo elevator, you drive it up into your ship and take off.
Hell yeah. No more going to outposts.
Physicalizing as many aspects of the game as possible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no more magical teleporting of inventory.
Prighton says, will there be weight
isn't
and
live at
volume
Silver
restrictions
anymore.
on tractor beams, and how will size and specialization of the tractor beam affect them?
Yes, there will be limits on the mass a tractor beam can carry. That is defined by the tractor beam size as well as the volume. And we were even considering like having exclusive tractor beams for that they are specialized in handling cargo, and others are specialized in handling basically the detaching mode. So there are no clear decisions yet on how these exclusive tractor beams might look like, or if we even go down that road. But the definite plan is, yes, there will be hard limits on the mass the tractor beam can carry and the volume. The multi-tool right now is just like
magic.
We wanted to allow you to play with this feature, right? And that meant we basically make it so overpowered that it's really unrealistic, right? A tiny gun like carrying several tons of weight is just like, yeah, it's fun, but not realistic.
As far as the stuff that you get through Salvage, are there plans to expand it to composites, glass, metals, any other materials?
Sounds like they
we
were.
touched on that already with yes. So yeah, once the physicalized material comes in, you will have all the different resources everything is made of.
Sorry, I'm clearly losing focus. I'm just stuck on munching and stripping right now.
Okay, let it go.
You mentioned a big part of the mining improvements in 319 was wanting to provide more use and viability for the Argo SRV with its multiple beams. This question's from Disco Lando. Can you do anything about the Rock DS?
You don't want an honest answer from me in this one.
He knows how stupid it is.
Dear John Crew, I have to.
Yo, I love that answer. You don't want an honest answer on this. We all know that thing is a joke, and even they do.
Sorry.
He's self-aware. I love it.
Let's see.
That's
we're
amazing.
almost at the end, folks. We're almost at the end. Can you tell?
But one thing I wanted to point out, it's not only the Argo Mole, right? So it's not only, we didn't focus only on the Argo Mole multi-crew mining, we also had Prospector multi-crew mining.
I really need to do more Prospector
even
mining.
Multiple Argo Mole mining in mind, right? So there are areas in Stanton where it is more, or where it's more viable to have multiple prospectors, versus there are areas in Stanton where it's more viable to.
There are areas in Stanton where it's more viable to have multiple prospectors, which means the rocks do not lower your... The rocks do not raise your instability. There are rocks that do not have high instability numbers, so when you raise the instability by having multiple prospectors, it doesn't go up much. That's what he means. The downside of using a bunch of prospectors is that it raises instability, but if the instability is 0, then it doesn't matter. I think that's what he means.
To have the mole.
Also small rocks in a lot of areas.
Mining business. So no, we didn't forget about the solo miners, and no, we didn't forget about the solo miners that from time to time want to work in a group with other solo miners. So this is accounted for in our balancing up. It's not solely on buffing the mole, what I read so far. It's there was a decision behind that was basically buffing both ships in their own way, or let's put it this way,
in different ways.
Yes.
We have time for maybe one,
I don't
two or
know
three more.
how the
Carl
prospector is
Pigeon,
buffed, though.
I'm just going to call you Carl. Tractored boxes damage the cargo grid hull of ships at an alarming rate when loading, even at low speeds.
Yes,
what can
Carl.
be done to make this contact softer, less explosive?
Come on, Carl. Come on, boys. We got something on this.
Issue that we have to fix.
Yep. It's a bug. We're researching. We're working with the physics guys. We're looking into why the energy happens that it causes all this wreckage. It's there's also some problems that come between networking and physics, because sometimes there's some synchronization issues, and we're investigating. We'll get the bottom of it.
Right. So
it's not intentional.
Okay, so fair. So it's not developing a new feature, changing the feature. It is figuring out what is causing them to hit the pad so hard. And
just a bug.
Okay. McGonagall says, will the Argo SRV tractor beam be capable of moving asteroids? For multiplayer mining ops, can we tug asteroids together for our party members in the Prospector/Mole?
So right now, how we originally designed mining, we just made all of our harvestables, which minables are part of, we made them static. And it was the simple thing to do back in those days. And I think now we're starting to get to the point where with tractor beam and all these features, there is a point in making it dynamic. So until now, and even right now, if you just crash into a fresh mineable with your ship, doesn't matter if you crash a Bengal carrier, that rock is not moving. But at this point, we can start looking into having them movable, and there's no reason if you can move. If you have a tractor beam strong enough to move a ship of that mass, of the same mass as the rock, there's no reason it couldn't move that rock.
Be careful, freak on a wish.
We already saw some things happening.
You don't know what you're getting into.
Boxes were tractor beamable, so we know there's some small problems there that we still need to overcome, but it is doable. So we're probably going to be heading in that direction.
Okay, that's interesting.
I feel like, if I'm allowed to speak for you, I've known you and Torsten long enough to know that if there's a way to make towing asteroids around possible and relatively safe and not balance breaking, stuff like this, we'll probably pursue it.
Wait until they tow
we don't know the real buzz,
really ludicrous speeds and they crash them into stations. Just wait for that. That is the first thing everyone will do.
To see whether you can bring it with you into quantum. Let it go. There's. I don't think it's a secret to say we want it. We want to see what happens, but game development.
We'll at least try it.
Okay, and then the last question from somebody whose name I'm not even going to try to pronounce because it has a bunch of numbers in it. Is everything going to be a beam?
Good question.
No. No, we were joking. So I think was it the last IC where you asked? Well, yes. We are aware of that we have a lot of beams in our game, but that doesn't mean that we want it, right? We also want to have like more variety in how like our gameplay are visually represented. That means that we are actively looking into finding like interesting ways of not utilizing beams for other stuff.
Pickaxe when?
That we are working on. And yeah, I can tell you that like munching is definitely up there for not using a beam, at least for the reclaimer side of it.
True.
Yeah, it's a lot of folks in the comments. We make a joke out of it right now, but there are plenty of people in Spectrum and Reddit and stuff like this that understand that Beam is kind of the first and easiest way to get a feature into players' hands, to test a whole bunch of its functionality, to start this process of development and iterative testing and stuff like this. But like Dan said before, we want to physicalize as much as possible. So I don't think beams. I don't think there's a version of the game that'll ever be devoid of beams, because beams are still cool and they're a very sci-fi thing. But yes, as many opportunities to physicalize and put your hands on things as possible. It's what the trolleys are for. People ask, why are you putting trolleys in when we've got handheld tractor beams, stuff like this. Obviously, munching, freight elevators. Physically bringing stuff up instead of, just dumping things into the hangar by beams. We're going to look for every opportunity to physicalize things whenever possible.
Yes. Trolley is very important.
The very first iteration, because we want to get things into people's hands. Am I right? Am I wrong? I feel like I'm right.
Oh, yeah.
All right. It's just, you don't even want to see my team's.
You should just tell him he's wrong after
the... we're going to the bar after
stripping.
The show. That's it. Dan, Torsten, you've completed another successful episode of Star Citizen Live. How do you feel?
Well, good. It was a pleasure.
Torsten,
thank you for watching,
when I started.
folks at home, folks at work, folks in your car. Captain Richard, do you still watch in your car? I don't know. Maybe
No.
just go out there just to feel comfortable.
Great SCL.
Join us next week. Next week's Inside Star Citizen is our first look at content for the upcoming Alpha 320. We're going to look at the new derelict outposts that are being added to the planets of Stanton. These are full-on
already.
Villages in some cases. All new places for a variety of gameplay and missions and mission content and stuff. So you're not going to want to miss that. I'm especially fond of the one of the forest locations, which you saw earlier in the show during our intermission.
Yeah.
And then we'll be right back here on Star Citizen Live for our improved new player introduction, where we'll have Todd Pappy on the show, and we're basically going to take you through the new player tutorial that's also coming online with Alpha 319. You might have seen the updated signage in ArcCorp and everything, and we're going to run through the whole thing with a developer commentary here with Todd.
Dude, that's awesome.
So
I miss those.
Come on back for SCL.
Todd's really familiar with the game too, so
for
it'll be good.
Dan and for Torsten, I'm Jared. Take care. Be nice to each other, and I'm sorry for almost everything I've said this show.
Yeah. You should be.
Bye-bye.
You should be. You should be. All right, that was awesome. Thank you for watching with me as well. I think all good things to be said and exciting things for the future. So very much cannot wait to get some of these fixes in, and fingers crossed on that, removing the modules for mining. That'll be huge. So fingers crossed on that.